I'm going to introduce Travis real quick. We're going to kick this off. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be super organic today. And we're going to learn about another thing that we don't get a handbook for. How do we help our kids become value creation kids? How do we practice that journey? Now, Travis here, he's a man of faith, married, got 4 amazing kids. He's a co-founder of both Gravy Stack and Dinner Table. And he brings a down-to-earth approach, which I've been part of, to entrepreneurship. He's fueled by commitment. He's fueled by legacy, vision, and he's juggling life. He's got so much going on, like we all do. And he's here to share some wisdom with us today, to have some fun with us. So Travis, welcome to the Founding Fathers Financial Freedom Thursday webinar, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm super glad to be here. Got to spend time with Jason earlier today with some other dads. And man, I love your perspective on life. It's just really encouraging. So today we have 4 kids. We're in Wilmington, North Carolina. We 10, 8, 5, and 2 are now 3. So today my daughter is turning 3.
No way.
Lula. So I know we all have pictures of kids, and that's why we're showing up, because we want to be the best version of ourselves to our kids. So
I have this theory, Travis, that all things are really the same things, whether we're talking about relationships, money, health, spirituality. I believe that they're all rooted in our habits, our behaviors, our beliefs, our faith. And I believe they're all the same thing. So I think when it comes to money, right, when it comes to some of the rules we have, and when it comes to the things that how you show up and what I've learned from you in the last few months, I just think it's another blessing to have you here today. And I'm super, super stoked to ask you some questions, learn your journey, and I want everyone being interactive. So first, I'm just curious, walk us through a little bit of that story. I know you're a top performer, Edward Jones, but how did you get to entrepreneurship with a family of 4? Because that's not easy.
So I grew up in East Texas, small town, east of Dallas, close to Tyler, Texas. My dad was an entrepreneur, but oddly enough, he actually was never necessarily intentional about showing me anything about money. So we didn't actually talk about money in the home, but you can imagine the issues that caused as time goes on. More so when you look back as an adult, you're like, oh wow, we didn't even talk about money. I remember going to, I went to TCU in Fort Worth, and walking to the financial admissions office, or financial student loan office, and my dad's like, hey, just sign these papers, and I had no clue what a loan was. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of I was gonna have to pay this back, so incompetent as an 18-year-old, and I just didn't know.
Wasn't even on your radar. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and even when I graduated, I graduated with a finance degree, didn't learn a lick of anything except for one class. Love Fort Worth, I love TC, but it was not real world skills, just put it that way. I'd have done better just starting a business in college and probably learned a lot more. But so then I just found a job that I could find. I had no clue what I want to do as a 23-year-old, which is really sad, because it's we can help our kids, now discover their giftings and passions, and they can know by 12. We can notice those things as parents and help them, launch into those things as a 12-year-old. They don't have to wait till they're 21. But I was like most kids, it's I didn't know what I wanted to do. So,
well, to be fair for you, males, our frontal lobe doesn't fully develop till we're 26. So 23, right. You're still pretty good.
Yeah, but there was no intentional things about hey, what are your passions? I didn't learn that I loved to surf until I was 27, and I went on an Edward Jones trip, and I was I already loved the ocean, but I was man, I wish I'd done this when I was 7,
Yes.
Could have been on the WSL tour or something, it's
imagine that.
I can do this every day. So went to Edward Jones, went through their program in St. Louis, was a top, I was young, 25 to 28, 24 to 28 or so, and took over a branch in Cleburne, Texas. Went from pretty much nothing, because the broker had left, to 26 million in 2.5 years, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
You're in that world for AUM, and learn how to
counts under management, folks, I believe, right?
Assets under management.
Assets under management. There you go.
So, and just figured it out, got doors slammed in my face. So that was the first kind of healthy struggle in the work world, where I just had to figure out and create value on my own. And I remember driving home one day, I was I don't want to be in an office the rest of my life. I'm not going to do this forever. Even though I was making more money than most people, even older than me at the time. Went back to a MBA entrepreneurship program in Austin, Texas called Acton MBA program, which is where I met Scott, who's my best friend, co-founder of Dinner Table. And after that, we started a company called Apex Fun Run, Apex Leadership Co. And I helped Scott start that. So to be fair, I was there for about 1.5 to 2 years, probably more like 1.5 years. And I started in DFW, selling schools, knocking doors. Scott was in Phoenix, and we were just competing like we did at school. We actually had a real sales challenge back in our MBA program. So we're just doing what we knew how to do.
Oh, that's amazing. You were conspiring. Like at that point, the competition was healthy, conspiring to get better and learn and come back, right? With collaborating. You were collaborating, which is one thing schools aren't teaching our kids. We haven't got there yet, but that's what I'm hearing from your story already.
So anyways, Scott, we basically sold a product that we had never delivered on, like before it existed. It was pretty crazy. Had our first year, I want to say Scott would know better, 30 to 40 schools probably. And so did that. And then I got engaged, and my fiance at the time, now my wife, was like, you have too many jobs. If you want to marry me, you only have one, So I jumped out of that, and Scott really grew it to what it is today, which is, that we didn't serve 7 million families when I was there, but I helped start what we ended up, serving that many kids across the country. It's funny because even I'll run into people and they're like, Apex, our kid ran an Apex Fun Run, last year or whatever.
Yes.
So that's kind of fun. But in 2020, Scott calls me. I'm in Texas. He's still in Phoenix. It's like, hey, I want to start a company. He was taking another company public in Canada. He's like, do you want to start this company with me? And that was 4 years ago. And, I don't know, long story short, we were like, hey, how do we help families learn about money? How do we make this fun for kids? Because with Apex, we knew like kids learn in 2 ways, by play and by doing, right?
Yes.
And,
Einstein's highest form of learning is play, right?
Yeah. And of course, that's how adults learn too. So novel. So that's when we created Gravy Stack, the app, and we launched it, and it was the entrepreneurial journey. It was like it was close, but not right what families needed, and so that's when we pivoted to what is now the brand Dinner Table, because what we were hearing from families was like, hey, this is great for my kids, but we need help as a family, and we're like, oh, we actually have to help the whole family ecosystem, not just the kids, and what's the quickest, fastest way to help families? And then so Dinner Table, we weren't even planning it. Scott actually had the idea. He's like, hey, let's do some workshops. We already had some content, and see how this lands with parents and grandparents, and then that's it was finally meeting the need that we're trying to fill.
Yes, and I know for us, we're always on the go, right? Like most families are. I don't know. Like you guys post in the chat. Are you guys sitting down at dinner together? Are you having time with your family? Is that something you're able to do? Right? With us, we're not very often really intentional about sitting down and talking. We're more so in talking with the radio off in the car as we're going places, but having a space that you're really being intentional around. I love just that idea alone is really different in
and if the dads real quick, just to get Corey and Derek and Logan and Drew put in it. So this would be interesting to hear from the guys. Like 1 out of 5, how busy is your family? Like how crazy is it? So 5 out of 5, like it's pretty crazy all the time. 1 out of 1 is like, no, I'm like drinking tea and and doing meditation, 24 hours a day, or so for our family, I think we're probably, we're 5 out of 5 on, but yeah, put in the chat, guys, like how busy is your family? How crazy is your family? 7.9, Corey, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm going to go 6 of 5, right? Because we're not even here half the time during dinner.
And you're right, Jason. Like that was the headache for families, and the bigger problem is we're too busy. So I never take time in the day to be like, all right, well, how do I get my kids to learn the value of the dollar? Like, because they're not getting into school most of the time. How do I get my kids to stop asking me for money, or it being a conflict when we go to Academy or we go to Dick's Sporting Goods? It's like this fight. How do we get harmony in the home where my kids actually on their own start to see the light? Oh, wow, I can have more freedom if I take on more responsibility, if I pay for stuff, that kind of deal. So
no, and I love just again conversations around the dinner. inviting money into our family. That's why I hear you saying, like, let's talk about money. Money's not the weird uncle sitting off in the corner that is not allowed to come in the house. You actually got to like invite money into the family. Connor asked me on the way to school today, Dad, how much you've made this month? I told him. And he's like, huh. I'm like, buddy, we're growing a business. Like he knows, he knows good months, he knows up and down because he is seeing it in real time every single day in conversation. So I love that that's something that you're starting to get the kids. Like he told me today, I said, hey, we're going to start up, gravy stack / dinner table again. You're going to start and we're talking about jump into this in a second, kind of some of the format of it. I'd love for you to share. But I told Connor driving home last night, I'm like, he's like, yeah, you owe me from pulling weeds. I'm like, how about we just start a clean slate when we start over? You'll know when we're gonna start over. Because our kids remember everything. He's like, I pulled weeds on May 15th or whatever it was, right? Like,
Yeah, we started this to kids where it's like the negative. It's like we have a problem with calling each other names that are like not good, negative. And all right, you're going to run to the fire station and back. It's a mile, and you're going to write a letter to your sibling when you do that again. But then, keeping up with that is like, well, I know you have 2 fire stations. So we forget as parents the point. Yeah.
yes, no, and that's it. So this is the support, not only your kids and their journey with money, it's also supporting the parents. And there's so many good values and pillars and things that are being developed and are developed. The depth of this training for me is immeasurable, right? Like it's priceless. It goes from just, I mean, talk about it. Talk about kind of how you see where is dinner table today, and how are you seeing like the community develop and like the feedback you're getting? Like, what's it look like today?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple today. So it's like, we have, you and I are part of the Dinner Table Dads community. So it's a free community where you can get access to our 7 Family Money Skills course. So it's just, first of all, it's a place to like be heard and also meet other dads in this case, right? That want
And
to,
moms, it's okay. You're part of this whole equation. We're
yes,
just dads. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Moms are in the background. I mean, my wife's way smarter than me, and has
Same.
some of the stuff that we've implemented. She's actually been more force in implementing them. So yeah, it's just the dad's kind of taking the lead and creating some structure. And we obviously work with moms too. There's moms groups and parent groups and all that stuff. But getting in the community is huge, because then the big thing there is you actually start to see you start to see progress from other families. And what that does is, is like, oh, like if they can do that, like I can do that, right? And so that helps us see as fathers what's possible and how to take a tiny next step, because it is chaos at home, right?
Yes. Yes.
So there's like the free community, which this is my dad's group. It's free. You can jump in there with me and Jason. But if you want to jump in there, a lot of our stuff didn't get, we built a whole new dad's group with some better bells and whistles. So a lot of our history is not in there. I apologize, because we have some great stuff in there. I'm going to see if I can get pulled
Hey,
over.
we're gonna celebrate progress, right? We're gonna give some knuckles. We're gonna do progress over perfection, Travis. I've heard that a couple of times in the last
But
week.
I would prefer to go in there and see all the stuff that's happened in the last, months. But anyways, join that. You can get in there, and we just had our dad's group today. So you'll see guys start popping stuff in there about what's happening at home. So that's number 1. And then number 2 is we do coaching. And this is what dads realize is like, it's great to get access to the course. You can go through that on your own. It's great to see what their dad's doing. But most dads are like, well, I need accountability to actually do this stuff and implement at home. That's our our dad group. It's a paid $100 a month, and that's where you get the coaching. We do that twice a month with dads, and we give a tool each week. So like today we did a tool. We're actually helping the dads set their whole home economy blueprint. That's kind of homework to do. We're going to share that, and then in 2 weeks we're going to be meeting with. This month's all about legacy. So what's the end in mind? My eulogy, what's going to be said about me, and I have to keep that connected with what I'm doing today, right? So
what is that's amazing. What is your eulogy? Like, what is that? Have you thought about it? Have you written it? Do you know how you're going to go out?
I have, but I need not recently.
Okay, you're going to revisit it.
But
Just so everybody knows, I'm going out like a Viking, man. I'm going out in a funeral pyre, and you're pushing me out in the ocean somewhere. That is how I am going out.
yeah.
That's the end. It's going to be a celebration. It's going to be a party. It's going to be fun.
I mean, I would like, if if, Lord willing, I would love to do a party like in Hanalei Bay in Kauai. That would be my idea, and just basically treat everybody. And they could, kind of like you, they could just paddle me out to, the ocean.
Yes, I know it's probably not legal in most places, but I don't care. I'm not here anymore, so someone will figure it out. If my wife's still around, she'll definitely figure it out. She wants to go into a volcano. So that's a whole nother set of problems. So,
So
but no, just so eulogy, like we're really starting with the end in mind, right?
yeah,
With legacy. And we talk
yeah,
about legacy here all the
yeah.
time. So
And even with the money, it's like with what you're doing, like we want to pass on, we want to create value. We want to teach our kids to create value. But even with the legacy, and Scott says that, I heard him say this first. I don't know who said this, but it's more important what we leave in our kids versus to them.
yes.
Right. So what am I leaving to my kids? That's legacy.
Yeah. What I mean, it is the habits, it is the positive things that we're passing on, and some of the negative too, because we grow from those things, right? Those are the challenges, and those are a lot of the decisions that you've shared with us were made because of the lack of communication around money in the home, the lack of direction of really having someone say, hey, like he seems really inclined to do this. That's what I heard you saying. Like he seems really inclined towards this. Let's get him in an internship or get him some kind of mentorship or some kind of, and that's a piece of this as well, isn't it? Like some of those type of things as the kids are growing is different communities for mentorship, just to think through like some of the things I've heard so far in this world, like dinner table dads and in the group is just things that aren't talked about very often. Like it's very much like let's get our kids in the school, let's get them good grades, let's have them compete in sports or academically or band or whatever it might be to get them a scholarship so then they can go to school and then they figure out what they want to be
Yeah.
versus seeing all the genius and brilliance as they develop, you know?
Paying
And
attention. Yeah. Now, I mean, like you probably, with your kids, like what are they passionate about? How am I investing? And like, even to your point, so we just started, for those of you don't know, Jason does this. We just started a micro school here in Wilmington, North Carolina for our 8 and 10-year-old boys. So we have high energy boys. We hired a former collegiate and semi-professional pitcher, baseball pitcher. He's their coach and their guide, their teacher, but we call him a guide. And we're like, we'd rather make an investment now when they're 8 and 10 than pay for tuition and they not even know what they're interested in, right? Like, let's make the investment now and take a risk now so that, when they're 13 or 14, like they're running their own businesses, they're already kind of hitting stride with their passions, because we spent the last 5 or 6 years doing that from the onset.
yes, yes. And I even saw like Travis shared a little short clip video earlier of his son throwing a ball and he's like, yeah, he's never played organized ball. I'm like, that can't be true. Like that's a nice little bunny hop. That's a nice toss. He's got a good arm on him. So working working with, and the reason I kind of acknowledge that is when you're working with mentors who have been there, who have done it, like that is what, and that's what a lot of what we're talking about here and why I wanted you to come on. And like for everything you've shared so far, just because of time's sake, like I could talk to you probably for 2 hours about this stuff, but if we fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, like when we start thinking in terms of legacies, like past ourselves, like what does this look like down the road a little bit? Or maybe what's it look like in 5 years? And then maybe what's the really big ultimate vision? Like if I give you a magic wand, what's it look like? Like ultimate.
So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's interesting how I think guys in our generation, I would say guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, probably, you had a lot of like grandparents that were kind of the World War II generation. So, they went through a whole host of struggles that we don't really know what that was like, but there was just a lot lacking, right? And it's kind of like, in 5 or 10 years, we'll look back on, 2024 and be like, I can't believe we did this, right?
100%. Yeah.
Like, I can't believe we're on our cell phones and it caused all these problems and suicide rates went up. Like cell phones are the modern day cigarette, right? So it's like,
Yes.
what's it going to be? So for my vision for dads is to really have an army of fathers who are fully connected with themselves, with their spouses, with their kids, and they are leading the charge on flourishing each member of their family. And obviously, that goes creating material value, giving out, practicing emotional value, sharing spiritual value. Are we fully connected, wholeheartedly connected to our kids, our spouses? And I think a good indicator of that is probably when we look back and our kids leave the house. And this is something Mark Tim said, who's one of our mentors. He wrote the book. He's an investor, Mentor to Millions. It's a great book. He wrote it with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. In the book, he says this, I'll butcher it, but it was like, when your kids, if you really invest in them now, they're gonna let go of your hand. They're gonna go off to college, take a job, whatever. They're gonna launch into the
You
world.
go from being dependence to independence.
Right. One day they will come back and grab your hand again, like a phone call. Dad, what do you think? Can you give me some advice here? Right.
We want to spend time. Wasn't the quote something like, your measure of your success is how, if your kids want to spend time with you when they're adults, like, do they want to be around you? Is your family still together? I mean, and I believe everybody here, this is what, like, financially, this is what we want to create. We want to create the freedoms, the time freedom, the money freedom, right? The relationship freedom. And then here we're talking about the same thing with our kids. We want to enable and empower them to be the best version of themselves. But that takes us literally owning up and being the best version of ourselves.
Right. And here's the thing too. It's like, we're going to fail. It's like, Chip died. I don't know if you were on the dad's session with him, but he always talks about like, hey,
I haven't met Chip. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You talk highly of it.
Strength is neediness, right? So it's like a baby, and Chip talks about this. When a baby comes out of the womb, they are needy for their mom, right? For survival. And not just like milk, but like touch and belonging. And like, so from when we were born in this world, we are reaching out and we need help. So as dads, if you can say, hey, I don't know how to be a dad of a 14-year-old. I've never done this before. We talked about this today.
Yes.
I need help and I'm going to get it. Even if you're 50-50, which I'd say is pretty good for failing and succeeding with your family in the next 10 years, guess what? You're going to win because you're going to be connected with them. You're going to have fun doing stuff. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to, screw stuff up.
Definitely going to do a lot of that.
All you have to do, I mean, I've done more than probably anybody on this call in so many ways. It's a whole nother podcast or webinar, but you're gonna have a connectedness to your family that will last and you'll pass on that legacy. So it's really not as much about succeeding with them as much as it is just like investing the time, resources
to you have a great quote.
Engage.
The quote I think for me wraps up all this is your quote. And you say, I want to be the dad, right? That what? Like,
I need it as a dad, or I need it as a kid.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, that was from my wife too. That was her quote. So Mandy Adams.
Mandy's really smart.
She's really smart. But anyways, be the dad you needed as a kid.
Yes. And I believe I looked at Connor last night and I said to him when we were praying, right? I always pray every night with him and say, thank you, God, for all the blessings and the lessons. And then thank you for Connor being so, like, the things that I see in him, kind, curious, courageous, like really important things. And I said, Connor, I want to be more like you. And this is something I've been really present to for the last couple weeks. Because I just watch kids. You watch kids. You like say, okay, you're going to do this in Taekwondo. They go do it. There's no like, oh, am I going to look weird? Like, is someone going to judge me? Am I going to be rejected from the herd? Like, that's our human instinct, right? And so I told him that last night, and he's like, what do you mean? Why do you want to be like me? Like, I'm a kid. And I was like, well, there's so many things I admire about you, but the one thing that I really am looking to reinstill in myself is how you go get what you want. When I was your age, like, I got what I want by going and being fearless and asking for it and doing the things. If I wanted to play ball, I went and practiced all the time. I just went and did the things until the result came without fear of rejection. And we suffer so much in an imaginary world, whether it's in business and relationships, where we just don't want to ask because we're afraid, like, what if they say no? Like, even asking you on here, what if Travis says no? What if you, like, with all of the conspiring that can be done with your communities to inspire 50 million fathers, right? The first thing on number I came was like, I'm going to inspire and educate 10 million fathers and their families. Well, guess what? Everyone watching this, This is the beginning of the beginning of doing that mission and really empowering people, not only with everything that's being like, this is what I say with Dinner Table. I went through so many coaching programs, whether it's Tony Robbins or other ones. But when I look at the platform, the depth of from the entry level of just coming in and having a support and accountability and seeing what other parents are doing to the coaching to the legacy piece, like there's so much depth in the exercises and so much science behind them. And we're not even touching on any of that yet. But
Right.
just like introducing that to everyone listening, it's just there's so much depth here. This could be like I always say, Ryan Holiday quotes, Stoicism should be the operating system for humans, right?
Yeah.
That's a great operating system. Like I
Yes.
believe what we teach with banking, like the parent or the bank of mom and dad, is how every family should privatize their banking because of one man's vision, like from R. Nelson Nash's vision. And then
Mhm.
what you're teaching and what Scott and what this group has, I believe is an operating system as parents. Now it's us implementing, being patient, making progress. But thoughts on that? Like that's what I see.
That's actually really interesting because I haven't thought about that in like the operating system. That makes a lot of sense. It's like trying to think of another example. I mean, the easiest way, I mean, the way that I see it is like if I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't be doing this, you know?
Yes.
I need an operating system.
Yes. Yeah.
So it keeps me focused and it keeps me from kind of passively going about life where I don't want to look up and be like, dang it, I missed it. Like none of us dads need to do that. That's probably one of our biggest fears. Like you look back up in 20 years and you're like, I missed it. Right. And we will miss stuff. We're human. So we're all broken people,
But I
but
was gonna say, just for you to acknowledge that as your fear, you're already present to it. You
right.
know, like when I
You gotta
look
be
at
aware first. Yeah.
like when I look at my dad's generation or my dad and his friends, right? And like you said, the dad I needed when I was growing up, it it wasn't because there wasn't love there. It wasn't because there was a desire for family and the lessons. It was just a not knowing how to connect with our hearts. It was not seeing what I needed and like what my love language was, right? Words of affirmation, touch, or
Mhm.
like, let's go throw a ball, like those kind of things. And so, like, your presence to that, like, it's all about energy and presence, but your presence to knowing that already makes you 10x better than the last generation. And our goal is to set our kids up to be 10x better than us,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, I love my dad and he's still in the fight for growing as a human. I'm really proud of him, but it's just like, you look at my grandfather, like he didn't know, he didn't pass it down. So it's like my wife sent me an Instagram the other day about it was a TEDx about being the change agent. So it's
Mm,
like we have the opportunities as
yeah,
dads to be
I
the
love
change
that.
agent. And even though we don't get to experience it. We didn't experience it as kids. We get to give it to our kids. And the cool thing too about that is I'm a big fan of Morgan Snyder, becominggoodsoil.com. If you check him out, he's got a
Okay.
podcast.
Okay.
Uh, but he talks about he told a story the other day where he was talking about how his son was going on this big elk hunt. And he's all about, raising men and becoming kings is kind of his thing. He wrote a book called Becoming a King. And but through his son's like hunting experience, and through his son being the captain of the football team, there were moments along the way as a father where he was getting to redeem the things that he missed as a father with his son in a different way, right? So I do think there is something with dads. Like if we didn't have this, there will be moments along this journey where we get the benefit as dads because we're seeing it given to our kids and it gets redeemed in us along the way, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Like when you see something in your kid and you're like, I don't know, something for me, it pops is like, is that epigenetic or is that from environment, right? Like, where is that behavior? Where is that thing coming? Am I even really perceiving that behavior as what I think it is that I fear that it might be?
Right, right.
That makes sense. And so then it's like, when we can be the change agent for our kids, when we can become more present, most of the time when like things go crazy in the house, it's because of us. It's the mom and the dad whose
Yeah,
energy is so whack that they're like the kids just go nuts because they're what else are they supposed to do?
And they're reacting to our reaction, right?
They don't feel safe. They don't
Hilarious.
feel
Yeah.
safe. They don't feel seen. They don't feel heard, right? They're like,
And again, that's why I'd say like the good news is like the dads that want to win, just like we literally spend 2 hours a month together. We stay connected in the community throughout the weeks, but it's just a little deposit and a little intentionality that's how you change, right?
and
And
one
part
of the
of
guys,
people can help you, asking for help, right? That's the key.
one of the dads on the call today said this, and pop it in the chat, and if you resonate with this, he said, I'm really, my default is going into busy and work and doing the things I can do, because as fathers, our energy as men are three things that we are meant to do, right? Like women are so much better in every way than us. There's hands down, we're lucky to have them in our life, but their energy is completely different, and it has to be that way. There has to be polarity. And so men are for protection, they're for provision, and then if we do those two well, we might get to procreate, right? To be creators, right? So like those are the three things. And so the father today was sharing, I go to work rather than doing the hard work. So I really appreciate this community because I stopped being busy to be present, and it's going to affect my home life in a big way. And so that's what Travis is inviting everyone here. Like anyone that's here presently, anyone that has a friend that needs this, anyone that's going to see this on the YouTube channel, like come join us. Come join the free community. Come sign up for the $100. $100 a month. Just don't go out to, you can go to any fast food joint if you have as many kids as you do and probably spend $100 in like a day. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, when
intentional.
you implement this, like the harmony that brings it home, the headaches it'll get rid of, and then the fact, part of the home economy and stuff you'll do on the money side of things, like your kids will start paying for stuff. So even the stuff your kids will probably pay for, if you got more than one kid, like that alone will pay for it. But obviously the connection, the harmony.
Can you go into a little bit like the 3 E's and kind of how the home economy is set up just from like the broad view a little bit?
Yeah. And for sure too, and I don't know if this is okay, Jason, but if anybody, if this is resonating with you, please give us a thumbs up in the chat, because I can't see anybody. Usually I can see everybody. So if this is helpful.
This is webinar format. That's how I didn't know how to get you into the Zoom, because it's not like
I saw that, but just, give us a thumbs up if this is helpful. And then if you have a question too, specifically, happy to answer those if we have time to end. So pop any questions in anything to be valuable about anything we talked about, please drop it in the chat. But yeah, I can go into, and I don't know if you want to share, Jason, and this, this came out of, Lee Benson and Scott Donald, Lee's our CEO. They wrote the book, Value Creation Kid. It's a great starting point for dads. If you want to, you can look up Value Creation Kid book, but this is in the book, and then we coach on this stuff. But there's two kind of things. So the value creation cycle, because before we ever talk about money, we actually have to talk about value creation, because if you don't create value, you actually can't create material value, which we most commonly think is money. So the cycle, and this can be for kids or adults, goes like this. We have to go through healthy struggles before we can ever develop capability. So if y'all want to pop in the chat real quick, thank you, Corey. What's a healthy struggle you or your kids are going through right now? Just pop in the chat, and I'll give an example here in a minute if we have some input. So for example, my 8-year-old, we moved here to Wilmington a year ago, and he was super anxious and loves football, but he was on the team, but he didn't want to practice, didn't want to play. He was just like, nope, not doing it. Played 2 plays the whole season. And so my wife and I were like, well, what do we do next? This is a healthy struggle, but we need, we define a healthy struggle as you're in it with them and it's safe. We're not talking about trauma or anything. All right. It's like, you got to be in it with them, doing it with them, and it's got to be safe. So we said, okay, I'll coach his basketball team as soon as football ended. We want to keep him in sports because we know he loves sports. He's passionate about sports. He's really athletic, and let's just keep going. But let's you be the coach to give him a little bit of kind of a safety net and comfortability. And the first practice, he loved it, practiced the whole game. And fast forward into the season, he was our high scorer, and he was like one of the youngest kids on the team the last game.
Wow.
He finally developed the capability of like getting over that fear. He grew in confidence, and then he was creating value for our team in spades by the end of the season.
And the value creation cycle for earning money, right, which is just energy, is no different.
Yeah. Like
Figure out a
I've never
problem to
made,
solve, right?
yeah, I never, yeah. What's the healthy struggle? So we're starting a children's business fair. We're gonna do the children's business fair this fall with our school. And it's like, you got to come up with something that you can make with your hands that you can sell. And the healthy struggle is one of our kids has done it, but the other one hasn't. So it's like, they're going to have to figure it out. Then they're going to realize they're capable. And then they make their first sale, they're going to get confidence. And then they're like, oh, I can, you just gave value to somebody. They can walk away from your booth with something in their hand, and then they can do it again easier. Like it gets faster the next time for the kids.
Yes.
And that kind of goes over to, and Corey said there in everything, struggling and everything. Yeah. Any recent struggles your kids have, pop them in here. And I want to see if I can go through that cycle. But with moving over to the value creation matrix, I'll ask like dads, which matrix do you want your kids to be in, and where are they currently? Because most of the time, unless we've been super intentional, our kids are not necessarily in the top right quadrant of value creation kid. So like John Brooks, he was an anxious self-doubter, and there's always stuff until they leave the home we're going to be working on to get them to the top right. But that matrix is really helpful. And the cool thing about this too is you can ask your kids, take this home, take a screenshot and show it to your kids tonight and say, hey, what's a healthy struggle you're going through right now? So easy. Don't even say anything to them. Ask a question and listen. And the same thing, you say, hey, where do you want, if you're having a fight with your kid, just say, hey, where do you want to be in the matrix? Check this out, and just shut up and listen. And then they're going to say, I want to be at the top right. Awesome. What do we need to do? Where do you think you are right now? And they can tell you, right? They can usually tell you better than you can identify where they're at. So this is a great tool that goes into what you were saying. Okay. And here's a great example. Okay, Corey, thank you. Daughter was 4th in state, pole vault for state last year, and just had a bad day and placed 8th. She had worked so hard and just held her while she cried out. Way to go, just holding her. That's awesome. But yeah, with sports, it could be disappointment. It could be, like going down, right? She was at the top, she was at state, and then she's like 8th place. I don't know if that's in state or just whatever meet y'all just went to, but like using that failure as an opportunity to grow in capability. There's probably an unlock there. State. Okay. Yeah. So, and it can lead to lots of things, whether that's in pole vaulting or something else that she's passionate about. So thank you for sharing.
Hey, Corey, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
So anyways, all this stuff, value creation, think of it like the top. And when we're talking material, emotional, spiritual value, but when we talk about material value and money, which is, Jason, I know with the banking and banking mom and dad that you specialize in, the first place that we will start is what we call the dinner table home economy. And the 3 E's this is how you get started. This is like ground zero is expectations, expenses, and extra pay. Okay. So expectations, what are you expected to do in our household that you're not going to get paid for? Okay. So our kids, generally, it's clean the room, pick up the kitchen, living room, dishes, do your own laundry, fold it, put it up, and then you can do screen time. So
You got your young kids doing their own laundry?
Yeah, they don't always put it,
trade?
but they definitely fold it and put it up. Yep.
That's amazing. I was teasing. I said, do you want to trade? I'll trade you my.
And so when they do that, they get the freedom of screen time. So what we're teaching them is freedom and responsibility are connected at the hip, right? And the cool thing about kids is when you give what we call the freedom talk, like they want more freedom. They want more independence. So you're like, hey, you take on more responsibility, you get more freedom. And kids love that actually when you flip it on its head and then they're asking you for more responsibility. So expectations is no pay. Expenses is, what are your kids in charge of paying for? Because the reality is if they don't pay for anything, they're never going to earn the value of a dollar and they're always going to ask you for money. So quick tip, if your kids aren't paying for birthday presents for their friends, talk to them tonight and say, hey, you're in charge now of paying for presents for the next birthday party, right? So expenses is crucial to starting the process.
A quick win here for our household. Connor wanted all of his friends in Taekwondo. They're starting to rock the 1984 Jordans, right? He's 10. Like last year, I could make him wear barefoot shoes because it's better for him athletically. That's not cool anymore, Dad. That's not. So he got this like tie-dye pair of Jordans, and I was like, look, I'll go up to, this amount. Jordans are like up here. If you have this much money in your account, you can pay for the difference if you want them, and that's what we did. And that's the example that I heard. I actually learned that from Travis talking about his kids buying gear for baseball or other things. Like, we'll get you those cleats, but the really nice cleats, these are that much more expensive. If you want those to try a new sport, then you're going to pay that difference. So teaching your kids the value of money, like what things actually cost, right?
Well, and the beauty of all this too is when they start paying for stuff, guess what? They start appreciating it way more. They take way better care of it. They got skin in the game. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
a oh yeah. So expenses is great. And then the last E is extra pay, which we call gigs, which is the dinner table app where you can, it's basically a ledger system to keep count of the value they create. And then they can spend that money from whatever bank account that you have at home. So
in that account, when they earn money in 2 minutes or less, go through the three ways that the money is divided up for them. Like this stuff, everyone listening, watching this stuff's brilliant, So that's why
yeah.
Travis is here.
Well, and when we launched the first version of the app, like what we realized again was like the home economy was what parents need to help with. So the app really focused on the home economy, which is the three jars. So, you can see here, there's Barrett's 3 jars. So when they make money, he's got his percentages right now. He's trying to build up his spend account. So he's got $59 in his save, $8.23 in his spend, and $6.44 in his share. And so that money goes directly to those jars, and that's done when he creates value at home. So like you can see here, these are all of our kids' gigs, right?
So go get the dinner table app, everyone. Go get the dinner table app too.
Yeah, back in the house, it has for all of our kids. And it's just a ledger system, so you don't have to connect your bank or anything to it. It's just going to keep the value. And then when he goes to spend money, he can just click on a spend jar. And it's crucial for your kids to see the money leave the account. That's the problem with a credit card. You swipe it and you don't have to put a transaction in. But when they spend money, they actually spent $1.25 on snacks and then see the money leave out of their spend jar.
It hurts them.
That's how they start learning. That's how they start learning, like, oh, this is how much this stuff costs. Like my kids could tell you today, like what stuff cost a year ago, not so much. My kids get the dad tax when it's steak night. Yep. I love the dad tax.
That's just taking care of them, Corey. You're just making sure that nothing's poison. Like I always have to check and make sure like cookies and steak and things like that aren't poisonous before anyone can eat them. So that's a dad tax. I had a moment. We were in Indianapolis for for the USA swim trials, and we just landed. Super cool airport, and I'm like pulling up Uber. First time we've ever Ubered together. He's like, Dad, I want to Uber something else. I'm like, why? It's like a 10-mile ride. Like you don't need to pay extra.
Yeah.
And he's insistent. He wants to be VIP. He's like big roller. And I'm like, all right, buddy, if you want to pay for it out of your jar, we could do that. We did it. We got there. He's like, Dad, it smelled like food and butt. Like, why did we do that? And I'm like, I told you. Right.
Yeah.
I told you. So
And
that's a healthy struggle. Like our kids just learn through that moment. Like he won't go for the fancy Uber again. He'll spend it on something more, it's a good struggle for him.
Yeah, and that's how kids learn. They make bad decisions with their money. That's the beauty of it. They learn, and then next time, guess what? He's not going to get the fancy Uber, right? But
yes,
he's not going to learn that when you tell him that. He's going to learn that by making a decision and experiencing the
having skin in the game. Having skin in the game. So,
does that answer your question? I hope that answered.
Yes, no,
that's all around the material value, right? And banking mom and dad stuff.
It teaches why I love all this. So again, I believe it's an operating system for home, for creating good, healthy habits, right? If we could break down all the books on self-help, and it could go back to Gandhi's quote, right? Like our beliefs become our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits become our values, and our values become our destiny. This is being intentional around how your kids feel at home, what they're learning, how they learn. Like they're no longer thinking, oh, if I do X, maybe someone will pick me and I'll be good enough to have this job and this. No, they know that they're valuable. We're teaching them that they have innate valuable, and you're supporting their, the things that they're passionate about by having them put skin in the game. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyhow, well, I know we're gonna do this again. Is there any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to share with our and thank
Yeah.
you everyone for sticking around. This is usually like 25, 30 minutes, but I did not want to let this opportunity to have you all exposed to this amazing community. And I know it's gonna be incredible. Like it's gonna be incredible to see this being implemented around the country. So especially when you look at our leadership currently, we need some help. So
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I would just say if you can jump in our free community, I put the link there again. It's free. You'll start to see some of the other dads popping in because you'll see content and pictures, and certainly you can post too if you want to. And then if you have questions or you want to jump into our dad's group and the coaching, you can email me. You can also just message me. But I would say it's the most vital investment you can make. It's going to pay in spades. We just dropped the price to $100 a month, so it's super affordable for most people. But it's like if we're investing money in all these other things, what are we putting in the family legacy bucket? What are we investing with? Not just money, but time. Like how much time am I spending money? If I look at my calendar in my week, how much time am I investing? Like for most of us dads, it's pretty eye-opening. And I can say that too about myself, like which is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this, because it forces me to be engaged. And like you were sharing, like we get to see the fruits once you jump in. It doesn't take long either. So
no, and once you're in the group, like the depth of other people's shares will unlock things that you weren't even present or thinking about. And then when you go back and you're thinking and you're praying on your life and you're wondering like how can I show up better tomorrow? Right. It just gives so much depth and value. And Travis, super blessed to have you here, man. This is a lot of fun. I didn't know you were a surfer either. I'm pretty terrible, but I will paddle out with you someday. So
hey, man, it's my passion. So anytime.
very cool.
Um,
Very cool.
so well, thanks for having me, Jason. And yeah, good meeting, seeing everybody else. And
Yes.
yeah,
And we'll come join the group, sign up, check it out, download the app, email Travis. If you forget, to get Travis's
totally,
message or
Jason.
email, just come to me and I'll make sure I connect you and we'll go that way. So again,
Yeah.
super blessed. I'm gonna go take a test right now in 15 minutes. So I'm gonna jump and we'll see you guys all next week. Oh, hey Connor. So Connor says hello, Travis.
Oh, hey, Connor. All right, thanks, Jason. We'll see y'all.
Take care. Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here. It's awesome.